guys, it's me, Adeline. Today we are going to be reading the second half of Chapter 10. We play the game Show of Death, starting on page 173. Timestamps are down below, and don't forget that it only posts on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from now on. Alright, let's start reading. Perdix tried to catch it, but the throw was too long. The beetle sailed into the sky, and Perdix reached a little too far. The wind caught him. Somehow he managed to grab the rim of the tower with his fingers as he fell. "Uncle!" he screamed. "Help me!" The old man's face was a mask. He did not move from his spot. "Go on, Perdix," Daedalus said softly. "Make your own wings. Be quick about it." "Uncle!" the boy cried as he lost his grip. He tumbled toward the sea. There was a moment of deadly silence. The god Janus flickered and disappeared. Then thunder shook the sky. A woman's stern voice spoke from above. "You will pay the price for that, Daedalus." I heard that voice before. It was Annabeth's mother, Athena. Daedalus scowled up at the heavens. "I've always honored you, Mother. I've sacrificed everything to follow your way. Yet the boy had my blessing as well, and you have killed him. For that, you must pay." "I've paid and paid," Daedalus growled. "I've lost everything. I'll suffer in the underworld, no doubt. But in the meantime..." He picked up the boy's scroll, studied it for a moment, and slipped it into his sleeve. "You do not understand," Athena said coldly. "You will pay now and forever." Suddenly, Daedalus collapsed in agony. I felt what he felt. A searing pain closed around my neck like a molten hot collar, cutting off my breath, making everything go black. I woke in the dark, my hands clutching at my throat. "Percy?" Grover called from the other sofa. "Are you okay?" I studied my breathing. I wasn't sure how to answer. I just watched the guy we were looking for, Daedalus, murder his own nephew. How could I be okay? The television was going. Blue light flickered through the room. What time is it?" I croaked. 2 a.m, Grover said. "I couldn't sleep. I was watching the Nature Channel," he sniffled. "I miss you, Juniper." I rubbed the sleep out of my eyes. "Yeah, well, you'll see her again soon." Grover shook his head sadly. "Do you know what day it is, Percy? I just saw it on TV. It's June 13th, 7 days since we left camp." "What?" I said. "That can't be right." "Time is faster in the Labyrinth," Grover reminded me. "The first time you and Annabeth went down there, you thought you were only gone a few minutes, right? But it was an hour." "Oh," I said. "Right." Then it dawned on me what he was saying, and my throat felt searing hot again. "You're done lying with the Council of Cloven Edlers." Glover put the TV remote in his mouth and crunched off the end of it. "I'm out of time," he said with a mouthful of plastic. "As soon as I go back, they'll take away my searcher's license. I'll never be allowed to go out again." "We'll talk to them," I promised. "Make them give you more time." Grover swallowed. "They'll never go for it. The world is dying, Percy. Every day gets worse. The wild... I can feel it fading. I have to find Pan." "You will, man. No doubt." Grover looked at me with sad goat eyes. "You've always been a good friend, Percy. What you did today, saving the ranch animals from Garen, that was amazing. I wish it could be more like you." "Hey," I said, "don't say that. You're just as much a hero." "No, I'm not. I keep trying, but..." he sighed. "Percy, I can't go back to camp without finding Pan. I just can't. You understand that, don't you? I can't face Juniper if I fail. I can't even face myself." His voice was so unhappy it hurt to hear. We've been through a lot together, but I never heard him sound this down. "We'll figure out something," I said. "You haven't failed. You're the champion, goat boy, all right? Juniper knows that. So do I." Grover closed his eyes. "Champion, goat boy," he muttered dejectedly. A long time after he dozed off, I was still awake, watching the blue light of the Nature Channel wash over the stuffed trophy heads on Garen's wall. The next morning, we walked down to the cattle guard and said our goodbyes. "Nico, you could come with us," I blurted out. I guess I was thinking about my dream and how much the young boy Perdix reminded me of Nico. He shook his head. I don't think any of us had slept well in the Demon Ranch house, but Nico looked worse than anybody else. His eyes were red and his face chalky. He was wrapped in a black robe that must belong to Garen, because it was 3 sizes too big, even for a grown man. I need to think. His eyes wouldn't meet mine, but I could tell from his tone he was still angry. The fact that his sister had come out of the underworld for me and not for him didn't seem to sit well with him. "Nico," Annabeth said, "Bianca just wants you to be okay." She put her hand on his shoulder, but he pulled away and trudged up the road toward the ranch house. Maybe it was my imagination, but the morning mist seemed to cling to him as he walked. "I'm worried about him," Annabeth told me. "If he starts talking to Menace's ghost again, he'll be all right," your tune promised. The cowherd had cleaned up nicely. He was wearing new jeans and a clean western shirt, and even trimmed his beard. He put on Garen's boots. "The boy can stay here and gather his thoughts as long as he wants. He'll be safe, I promise." "What about you?" I asked. Yurchin scratched Dorothy's behind one chin, then the other. Things are going to run a little different on this ranch from now on. No more scattered cattle meat. I'm thinking about soybean patties, and I'm going to befriend those flesh-eating horses. Might just sign up for the next rodeo. The idea made me shudder. Well, good luck. Yup, Yurchin spit into the grass. I reckon you'll be looking for Daedalus' workshop now. Annabeth's eyes lit up. Can you help us? Yurchin studied the cattle guard, and I got the feeling the subject of Daedalus' workshop made him uncomfortable. Don't know where it is, but Hephaestus probably would. That's what Hera said, Annabeth agreed. But how do we find Hephaestus? Yurchin pulled something from under the collar of his shirt. It was a necklace. A smooth silver disc on a silver chain. The disc had a depression on the middle, like a thumbprint. He handed it to Annabeth. Hephaestus comes here from time to time, Yurchin said. He studied these animals and such so he can make bronze ornamenting copies. Last time I did him a favor. A little trick he wanted to play on my dad, Ares, and Aphrodite. He gave me that chain in gratitude, said if I ever needed to find him, the disc would lead me to his forges, but only once. And you're giving it to me? Annabeth asked. Yurchin blushed. I don't need to see the forges, miss. Got enough to do here. Just press a button and you'll be on your way. Annabeth pressed the button and the disc sprang to life. It grew 8 metallic legs. Annabeth shrieked and dropped it, much to Yurchin's confusion. Spider! She screamed. I'm a little scared of spiders, Grover explained. That's old grudge between Athena and Arachne. Oh, Yurchin looked embarrassed. Sorry, miss. The spider scrambled to the cattle guard and disappeared behind the bars. Hurry, I said. That thing's not going to wait for us. Annabeth wasn't anxious to follow, but we didn't have much choice. We said our goodbyes to Yurchin. Tyson pulled the cattle guard off the hole, and we dropped back into the maze. I wish I could have put the mechanical spider on a leash. It scuttled along the track so fast, most of the time I couldn't even see it. If it hadn't been for Tyson's and Grover's excellent hearing, we would have never known which way it was going. We ran down a marble tunnel, then dashed to the left and almost fell into an abyss. Tyson grabbed me and hauled me back before I could fall. The tunnel continued in front of us, but there was no floor for about 100 feet, just gaping darkness and a series of iron rungs in the ceiling. The mechanical spider was about halfway across, swinging from bar to bar by shooting out metal web fiber. Monkey bars, Annabeth said. I'm great at these. She leaped onto the first rung and started swinging her way across. She was scared of tiny spiders, but not of plummeting to her death from a set of monkey bars. Go figure. Annabeth got to the opposite side and ran after the spider. I followed. When I got across, I looked back and saw Tyson giving Grover a piggyback ride. Or was it a goatee-back ride? The big guy made it across in 3 swings, which was a good thing since just as he landed, the last iron bar ripped free under his weight. We kept moving and passed a skeleton crumpled in the tunnel. It wore the remains of a dress, skirt, slacks, and a tie. The spider didn't slow down. I slipped on a pile of wood scraps, but when I shined a light on them, I realized they were pencils. Hundreds of them, all broken in half. The tunnel opened up onto a large room. A blazing light hit us. Once my eyes adjusted, the first thing I noticed were the skeletons. Dozens littered the floor around us. Some were old and bleached white, others were more recent and a lot grosser. But they didn't smell quite as bad as Garen's stables. But almost. Then I saw the monster. She stood on a glittery dais on the opposite side of the room. She had the body of a huge lion and the head of a woman. She would have been pretty, but her hair was a tie back in a tight bun, and she wore too much makeup, so she kind of reminded me of my 3rd grade chorus teacher. She had a blue ribbon badge pinned to her chest that took me a moment to read. This monster has been rated exemplary, Tyson whimpered. Oh, Sphinx. I knew exactly why he was scared. When he was small, Tyson had been attacked by a Sphinx in New York. He still had the scars on his back to prove it. The spotlights blazed on either side of the creature. The only exit was a tunnel right behind the dais. The mechanical spider scuttled between the Sphinx's paws and disappeared. Annabeth started forward, but the Sphinx roared, showing fangs and otherwise human face. Bars came down on both the tunnel exits behind us and in front. Immediately, the monster's snarl turned into a brilliant smile. Welcome, lucky contestant, she announced. Get ready to play Answer That Riddle! Canned applause blasted from the ceiling as if there were invisible loudspeakers. Spotlights swept across the room and reflected off the dais, throwing disco glitter over the skeletons on the floor. Fabulous prizes, the Sphinx said. Pass the test and you'll get to advance. Fail and I get to eat you. Who will be our contestant? Annabeth grabbed my arm. I've got this, she whispered. I know what she's going to ask. I didn't argue too hard. I didn't want Annabeth getting devoured by a monster, but if I figured if the Sphinx was going to ask riddles, Annabeth was the best one of us to try. She stepped forward to the contestants' podium, which had a skeleton in a school uniform hunched over it. She passed the skeleton out of the way and it clattered to the floor. Sorry, Annabeth told it. Welcome! Annabeth chased, the monster cried, though Annabeth hadn't said her name. Are you ready for your test? Yes, she said. Ask your riddle. 20 riddles, actually, the Sphinx said gleefully. What? But back in the old days, we've raised our standards. To pass, you must show proficiency in all 20. Isn't that great? Applause switched on and off like somebody turning a faucet. Annabeth glanced at me nervously. I gave her an enormous, encouraging nod. Okay, she told the Sphinx. I'm ready. A drum roll sounded from above. The Sphinx's eyes glittered with excitement. What is the capital of Bulgaria? Annabeth frowned. For a terrible moment, I thought she was stumped. Sofia, she said. But correct! More canned applause. The Sphinx smiled so wide her fangs showed. Please be sure to mark your answer clearly on your test sheet with the number 2 pencil. What? Annabeth looked mystified. Then a test booklet appeared on the podium in front of her, along with a sharpened pencil. Make sure you bubble each answer clearly and stay inside the circle, the Sphinx said. If you have to erase completely, or the machine will not be able to read your answers. What machine? Annabeth asked. The Sphinx pointed her paw. Over by the spotlight was a bronze box with a bunch of gears and levers and a big Greek letter Eta on the side, the mark of Ephesus. Now, said the Sphinx, next question. Wait a second, Annabeth protested. What about what walks on 4 legs in the morning? I beg your pardon, the Sphinx said, clearly annoyed now. The riddle about man, he walks on 4 legs in the morning like a baby, 2 legs in the afternoon like an adult, and 3 legs in the evening as an old man with a cane. That's a riddle you used to ask. Exactly why we changed the test, the Sphinx exclaimed. You already know the answer. Now, second question, what is the square root of 16? 4, Annabeth said. But correct! Which U.S. president signed the Emancipation Proclamation? Abraham Lincoln. But correct! Riddle number 4. How much? Hold up! Annabeth shouted. I wanted to tell her to stop complaining. She was doing great. She should have just answered the question so we could leave. These aren't riddles, Annabeth said. What do you mean? The Sphinx snapped. Of course they are. This test material is specially designed. It's just a bunch of dumb random facts, Annabeth insisted. Riddles are supposed to make you think. Think? The Sphinx frowned. How am I supposed to test whether you can think? That's ridiculous. Now, how much force is required? Stop, Annabeth insisted. This is a stupid test. Annabeth, Clover cut in nervously. Maybe you should just, finish first and complain later. I'm a child of Athena, she insisted, and this isn't an insult to my intelligence. I won't answer these questions. Part of me was impressed with her for standing up like that, but part of me thought her pride was going to get us all killed. The spotlights glared. The Sphinx's eyes glittered pure black. Why then, my dear, the monster said calmly, if you won't pass, you fail. And since we can't allow any children to be held back, you'll be eaten. The Sphinx bared her claws which gleamed like stainless steel. She pounced at the podium. No! Tyson charged. He hates it when people threaten Annabeth, but I couldn't believe he was being so brave, especially since he had such a bad experience with the Sphinx before. He tackled the Sphinx midair and they crashed sideways into a pile of bones. This gave Annabeth just enough time to gather her wits and draw her knife. Tyson got up, his shirt clawed to shreds. The Sphinx growled, looking for an opening. I drooped riptide and stepped in front of Annabeth. Turn invisible, I told her. I can fight! No, I yelled. The Sphinx is after you. Let us get it. As if to prove my point, the Sphinx knocked Tyson aside and tried to charge past me. Grover poked her in the eye with somebody's leg bone. She screeched in pain. Annabeth put on her cap and vanished. The Sphinx pounced right where she'd been standing, but came up with empty paws. No fear! The Sphinx wailed. Cheater! Well, Annabeth no longer in sight, the Sphinx turned on me. I raised my sword, but before I could strike, Tyson ripped the monster's grating machine out onto the floor and threw it at the Sphinx's head, ruining her hairband. It landed in pieces all around her. My grating machine, she cried. I can't be exemplary without my test scores. Bars lifted from the exits. We all dashed for the far tunnel. I could only hope Annabeth was doing the same. The Sphinx started to fall, but Grover raised his reed pipes and began to play. Suddenly, the pencils remembered they used to be parts of trees. They collected around the Sphinx's paws, grew roots and branches, and began wrapping around the monster's legs. The Sphinx ripped through them, but it brought us just about enough time. Tyson pulled Grover into the tunnel, and the bars slammed shut behind us. Annabeth, I yelled. Here, she said right next to me. Keep moving. We ran through the dark tunnels, listening to the roar of the Sphinx behind us, as she complained about all the tests she would have to grade by hand. Thank you guys so much for finishing off chapter 10 with me. We played the game show of death. That was such an amazing chapter. And sorry it took 2 or basically 3 days to film, but it was a pretty big chapter. Don't forget timestamps are down below. And yeah, bye guys!